Alright, Infernal Blessings. We're back with another video. Just to run through a couple quick announcements. Again, if you're interested in signing up for the various different classes I offer, I have a bunch of ongoing classes going on right now on Patreon. Classes, Telepathic Sorcery, Luciferian Magic and Self-Mastery, Sith Dark Side Alchemy, and Philosophy class, Esoterical Occult Bible Study, Eastern Left-Hand Path Occult class, Shadow Work class, 18 and counting, Ancient Egyptian Vampiric class. The list goes on. I'm sure there's something there you can find of interest. And also, you know, the Patreon is for those that want to take their level of their spiritual growth to the next level, because I deal with things on Patreon, talk about things on Patreon, and get a lot more in-depth and personal on Patreon, obviously, than I would openly on YouTube. So if you want to sign up for the 3 classes I do privately every month on Patreon, you want to go to patreon.com/Baniti, B-A-N-I-T-I. That's patreon.com/Baniti, B-A-N-I-T-I. And keep in mind, those classes, when you sign up, it doesn't just give you access to the classes the day you sign up moving forward. Again, I want to reiterate, you get access to all the classes in the archive that are there before you join. So you get access to a lot of material going back a couple of years, quite a bit of classes. And again, it's not just classes, it's ritual work, and it's, again, more personalized. There's also mentorship tiers on the Patreon page. Check it out, patreon.com/Baniti, B-A-N-I-T-I. If you are interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, I offer various different readings, telepathic demonic readings, shadow work readings, deity readings to see what spirits and demons and gods and goddesses walk with you, Santa Muerte readings, list goes on. If you're interested in booking a reading or a consultation, shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com, and I will send you information on how to book a reading or a consultation. Also, the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference, which will take place here in Hollywood, Florida, from October 19th to the 22nd. Kicks off with a meet and greet on the 19th, Friday and Saturday, the 20th and the 21st, Classes, workshops, speakers, presentations. In the evening, we have a group ritual both nights, followed by a group dinner, some socializing, hanging out, and having fun. Then I close the event out on Sunday the 22nd. I'll be doing a Q&A, question and answer session from noon to 4 p.m. You could also attend virtually. So shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com, and I will send you information on how to sign up for the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference right here in Hollywood, Florida. Minutes from the beach, minutes from Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale International Airport, close to hotels, Airbnbs, restaurants, and everything is within minutes of the venue where we are holding the conference. Also, keep in mind all this new content is being uploaded to the Primordial Chaos podcast, which is available on Spotify and all major podcast platforms. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Primordial Chaos 9, all one word. Facebook, Primordial Chaos, where I also upload all this new content. And then obviously here in the YouTube channel. Everything that I just described, my contact email, the direct link to the podcast, link to the social media pages, and the direct link to the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes, all of that is in the description box of the video that you're currently watching right now. All right. So every now and then I kind of like to change it up a bit, kind of talk about something a bit different, because I get emails on certain things, so I try to incorporate that in some of these short tutorials. So this comes up a lot. Recently got an email about, your thoughts on the Annunaki Nibiru, the Sumerian culture, this and that, okay? Now, back in the day, I used to study a lot of that stuff. Ancient Egypt, well, when I say from a different perspective, it's not that I still am not, fully aware of that information or knowledge, but my perspective on it is a bit different now, okay? It's not so much my thoughts, because when you're coming with a question of spirituality and your perspective on it, it just depends on how you have embraced it. When we're talking about the Anunnaki and Nibiru, or ancient Egypt and the ancient Egyptians, we have to understand this is ancient history. It doesn't mean that you can't learn. There's a lot of knowledge there, but the problem sometimes I see, and I'm just putting this out there, for let's per se individuals who, and I gotta call it for what it is, get caught in what I like to call a back in the day mentality. Sometimes we can get stuck in the past. But let's just, again, this is a quick tutorial. I can't go into an in-depth history in a 25 to 30 minute period. But when we look at the Anunnaki, we know it was a great ancient civilization, right? Right? We see through artifacts, we see through carbon and fossil dating, we see through text, things that were left behind that are there for discussion. So I don't get into the this, that, and the other and the particulars, because in essence, a lot of it is just nonsensical debates, in my point, when people get so locked into the years, this and that. Because I say that because in 2023, approaching 2024, debating over that stuff is going to serve what purpose? How is that going to help you in this day and time? But my thoughts on the Anunnaki, Nibiru, and the ancient Sumerian culture, yes, it was a great civilization that did exist. Again, there's plenty of evidence to allude to many aspects of it. Now, there's different perspectives. Now, obviously, if you've read Zachariah Stitchin's book, he was pretty big and heavy on the Anunnaki, and you had people that came afterwards, or maybe even before Dr. Delbert Blair. You had Dr. York, who really took a lot of that information, and I remember in the 90s, but basically made it look like it was him coming with something new, but it really wasn't. This stuff, was there when you go back, dig, and research. Now, there's a lot of scholars and teachers and elders over the years who, some refer to Nibiru as Planet X, that it's an actual moving planet, that it enters our orbit at an X amount of years when it makes its rotation. There's a lot of theories on that. Some tie it to the extraterrestrial phenomenon, and I'm just putting this out there. I'm not telling you what to believe or accept. You figure that out on your own based on your research, because that's why I said in the beginning of the video, it just depends on your perspective through your research, how you are going to take or perceive those particular things. I can only tell you through my research, my study, and how I am now looking at that in regards to maybe differently back in the day, where it was kind of looked at in a cultish way, like that a spaceship is coming back and these Anunnaki are on it and they're going to take you to this place called Nibiru. I mean, that was one of York's teachings in the 90s, right? You can still find it in his tablets, right? I don't look at it like that at all anymore, right? I just think what we have to be careful when we look at a lot of information on ancient cultures and ancient civilizations, people have put their twist on it, and it can kind of be sold to the masses and made to look like something it's not, is what I'm trying to get at here. Okay, you had, even when you go back to the Hale-Bopp cult with what was his name, the Applegate dude, who believed Hale-Bopp comet was a spaceship. I don't get spooky with it like that anymore. Now, whatever your take is on how you categorize the Anunnaki, do you believe, do you put them in the extraterrestrial pantheon? Do you still believe that Nibiru is coming towards our planet, and they are on it, and they're going to come down on a spaceship and take the select few? Sounds very religious to me, very Book of Revelation is to me. Now, I say that because a lot of these stories got grafted, filtered, and watered down all the way to the present day in religion. okay? Because as I said before, when you read the Gilgamesh epics, when you read the Atrahasis, you see a lot of biblical stories, and this predates what we know as the Bible or the books of the Bible today. The story of Utnapishtim in ancient Sumeria is the flood story. When you read it, it's identical to the Noah story. Coincidence? I don't think so. Okay? You also see the story of the two warring brothers in ancient Sumeria between Enki and Enlil, right? Very similar to the Cain and Abel story, very similar to the Set, Osiris / Heru Horus story, right? It's not a coincidence as time goes on, these stories get filtered down. The names, the titles of the characters in these stories change according to the culture's language, right? But it's not a coincidence. There is definitely a synchronization with those stories. There's also the debate, which was first. I hear people debating over this. Ancient Sumeria, Egypt. Some say Sumeria, some say Egypt. Again, to me, that shit is not important to me. How do you take that knowledge, whether it's in their text, whether it's in their spiritual practices, spiritual philosophy, how do you apply that knowledge to yourself, and how do you take some of it and ritualize it to make it work for you? Because if we can't take that information and that sacred knowledge from back during that time, right, and update it to work for us here in 2023 and the present moment moving forward, then we have that thing that I like to call stuck with the back in the day mentality, where you got a lot of people walking around. Well, back in the day, we used to be direct descendants of this and that, and we were so great, and back in the day, back this, back then, back when. See, the problem why that don't work for us on the path of the occult and the left-hand path anymore, we're not dwelling on what we used to be and dwelling just on the good old days. We're trying to focus on how can I get mine now? How can we be great in 2023 and moving forward and beyond, right? If you're saying that some of us are direct descendants of these ancient cultures and civilizations, and they obtained greatness, and they were at the level of deityship, gods and goddesses, well, then we need to ask ourselves the question, what happened? Right? I love people, for an example, that connect with, you know, Egypt has become very trendy, unfortunately, in a lot of conscious circles. It's got to keep it real. You know, everybody thinks they're from fucking ancient Egypt. It's hilarious. Yeah, the ancient Egyptians. If you do your DNA search, you're going to find out. No, it's literally impossible for everybody. Just because you make the claim, because you might like Egypt, etc., that doesn't necessarily mean that's where you're from. If you did a DNA search, you probably would be shocked and surprised to find out something entirely different. But that's another story. But the thing that makes me laugh is people always connect with the greatness, for an example, of ancient Egypt or ancient Sumeria or some ancient culture where, yeah, back in the day we were gods, this and that. But then, and again, it's not to be judgmental, it's not to throw shade on anybody, but I got to keep it 100%. Then you look at them and their example. How can you connect to royalty and greatness when maybe you are pretty much living like a bum? Maybe your life is a hot mess. Maybe you're, again, not weighing things by finances and materialistic wealth, but maybe you're pissed broke. You ain't got nothing going on. And maybe you are masking and you're delusional and hiding behind this mask of illusion that you are some great Egyptian. I never heard of Pharaoh Broki the First. I don't know if you did, but I didn't. Show me a poor pharaoh in ancient Egypt. So if you're going to connect with the greatness of ancient Egypt, ancient Sumeria, and all these cultures that were rich in all aspects, not just in finances and wealth, but knowledge and wisdom, understanding and power, you need to be an exact example of that. Okay? I don't get how people, you know, and then take on, and then sometimes we can deceive ourselves and start taking on these, you know, super deep spiritual names, you know, Ra, Achmos, Seti, it's like, It's like, is this ego driven? Okay? So I'm saying all this to say I'm just having fun with it, cracking some jokes. Hopefully nobody gets up in their feelings. I mean, I really don't care if you do, but just, put it out there to coddle those that need to be coddled. Again, my whole point is, how do we take that and update it for 2024? Right? Because when we look at, for an example, a lot of these ancient texts, when you go into the Gilgamesh epics, the Atrahasis, there's a lot of metaphorical, esoterical things that were recorded in those texts that were dealing with a certain period, time frame, and things that were going on at that time. So how do you take that and update that for 2023 and beyond? That's my question. Right? Because if you can't do that, then it's just an interesting conversation piece. That's it. I just want to keep that 100% straight to the point. That's all it is. It's a very interesting conversation piece and nothing else. Okay? Because if we're going to sit there and lay claim to things that we can't prove, okay? Because really, technically, there's a lot of things, obviously, that can't be 100% validated or proven, and I don't think that should be the focus, because that's up for debate, right? And this is why when you see a lot of these debates that go on in these different, platforms, it's just, to me, it's a back and forth ego fest, right? That's the part. I don't care for that anymore. I've seen all the debates. What was first? Ancient Egypt, the Hebrews versus these people, the Sumeria. Listen, man, it's a new day. It's a new time. We got more important things to look at of what we see going on out here in this world and going on around us. So I think the focus, my thoughts, whether it's the Annunaki, ancient Sumeria, Nibiru, I'm not really interested if that's some type of moving planet or some type of craft that's coming back. And there's some people that believe that. You're entitled to that. I'm not saying it's true or it's not true. What I am saying is that's not my focus, because it doesn't change anything that I have to do. Some people alter their whole existence around stuff like that, okay? Because let me just, like I said before in a video a little while back, and I've said over the years, if there was some type of alien invasion tomorrow, what would you be able to do to stop it? That's my whole point. So, should that stop what you're doing in the moment and what you need to be focusing on? Absolutely not. And that's what any concept like that, conspiracy theories, all of that shit, I've said for years now, steer clear from that. Because what that does is trigger an emotion called fear. And when you're operating off of fear alone, you make very foolish decisions. So what tends to happen is people make very foolish decisions and choices off of pure fear. Don't do it, people. You're going to mess yourself up. All right? Don't do it. And if you see on the camera, it is downpouring. Probably can't even see out my window. This shit's crazy. It's the end of the world. But you get my point. So I would say if you're studying ancient grimoires, ancient texts, ancient civilizations, is no different what I was talking about and how you ritualize the mythology and the culture, ancient cultures, ancient civilizations, mythologies. I'm more, what can I extract from that and I can utilize in my personal spiritual and ritual work, and how is that going to help me grow? That's where my focus is. I'm not worried about an ego fest, a debate, and an argument where I got to stick my chest out and I got to prove to everybody I'm right and I know everything and you don't know what I know and I'm deeper and heavier than you, and let me impress you with my book knowledge about all the shit I remembered and regurgitated. I don't care about any of that stuff. I really don't. I'm past that stage. If that's your emphasis and your focus, then this is the wrong channel for you, right? This channel isn't about ego fest, right? Let me stroke my ego because I'm so heavy and I'm so deep and I want to impress everybody with what I know. Nah, it's not what it's about, people. And I don't recommend you get caught up in that foolishness. So it's, again, even when we transition, we have, an aspect of practice on this path that's very popular in the occult and the left-hand path called the Necronomicon, which deals with ancient Babylonian magic. So now let's talk a little bit about that, and let's shift this a little bit. So when you look at the Necronomicon and you look at the workings of Lovecraft, there's people who have taken that Necronomicon literally, okay? And they have ritualized that shit to the fullest. And they've opened astral gates. They've opened, connections to spiritual powers and entities. So now when we talk about, just like in ancient Egypt, there is high aspects of sorcery and magic when you get into ancient Sumeria too. Now you got my attention, right? Now, I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with the Necronomicon and ancient Babylonian magic, right? So when we look at that aspect and applying the practices that are involved with it, I now see work there that I can draw from, extract from, that's going to assist in my spiritual growth. Again, now you got my attention. Because I have to keep reiterating, what good is it regurgitating all of this knowledge? What good is it just memorizing shit from books and then just regurgitating the shit, or being in a discussion or a debate and stroking your ego where you want to get your rocks off, excuse me, to try to impress everybody about how much knowledge you have? If you can't take all that knowledge you claim, I want to stress claim that you so-called have and apply it to your everyday life and you use it to grow, then what are we doing here? That's my point. What are we doing? You have a bunch of book knowledge. And I've always made the statement over the years, there's a difference between reading and studying. People who read are your book regurgitators. They're just people who they read. And to those who are just blind to the truth of who they really are, they can impress certain people who just don't know. I'm not impressed. There ain't nothing you're going to say I haven't heard. There's nothing you're going to say that's going to go, wow. Because everything is out there now, right? There's nothing hidden. It's just you got to look. It's there. Now, the difference between somebody who studies and reads, someone who studies applies the information they're reading. Okay? I encourage you guys to be people that really study and do research, not just read. Okay? Because reading alone is not going to get you where you need to be at all. As I've said, I've made the statement many times over the years, you make sure you control and master the books and what you read. Don't let the books dictate and control you. Where some people want to just mimic and copy and regurgitate everything they read in the book. And I've highly encouraged, day one for years now, going back when you guys are reading rituals in books or grimoires or works from different authors, make sure you're adding your own creative flair to that work. It's okay to use the stuff for outlines, to get ideas, to get a better understanding. But your ritual work should be very personal. It should be stamped with your power and with your energy. Not mimicking and copying something from a book, which technically you're tapping into the person's energy who wrote the ritual if you are copying it word verbatim. That's why I don't encourage it. Okay? So, again, you can take the ancient Sumerian culture, the Anunnakis, just like you could the ancient Egyptians, just like you could some of the Klapothic gods and goddesses of the void and the abyss, and connect with the consciousness that they represent. I told you, you could do that with any pantheon. And that's how you take that ancient culture and ancient history and you update it to 2024. Okay? That's the key. That's the method you want to use to get yourself to a higher understanding rather than just be stuck back in history. Okay? It's that simple. So again, it's not a matter of my thoughts on the Annunaki and Nibiru, because that mine would be one of many opinions or thoughts. You know, because I'm not the tell-all be-all. I'm sorry, I'm not the tell-all be-all. Okay? When it comes to that, it's me and my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. I'm not telling anybody to agree with what I'm saying, but if you're gonna perceive the ancient Sumerian culture, the Anunnaki and Nibiru, from a very religious mindset, then that's on you. I'm not. I have no interest, no desire to. And I'm not gonna lie, back in the day, yes, when I used to study that stuff, going a while back, it was probably more from that religious mindset. Okay? And I'm done with that. Let that shit go years ago. But I'll ritualize the shit out of it. Okay? I think one of the most important things when it comes to whether it's ancient Sumerian culture or ancient Egypt, it definitely debunks and proves that monotheism and the three major monotheistic religions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity are a bunch of nonsense. And it definitely shows, understanding that knowledge and history, that they grafted a lot of their concepts from Egypt and ancient Sumeria. Whether it's circumcision, whether it's the Islamic form of prayer. I've always asked a Muslim, it doesn't show you every position of salat or prayer in their Quran. But why on the pyramids or the walls in ancient Egypt you can find the positions of the Islamic prayer? What's the explanation for that? Are Muslims sun worshippers? Because their 5 obligatory prayers are geared towards the movement of the sun. So are they actually worshiping the sun god and they don't even know it? Even their Sunnah prayers, outside of the 5 obligatory prayers, are in accordance with the movement of the sun. You have the morning prayer, Fajr, before sunrise. You have Salatul Dhuhr, which is the early afternoon prayer. Salatul Asr, the late afternoon prayer. Right? You have Maghrib. It's centered on the rising of the sun, the movement of the sun in the early portion of the day, the sun at its highest point, the setting of the sun, and the complete disappearance of the sun. So my question is, are you sun worshipers? Because you gear your prayer in alignment with the sun god Ra. So I think understanding whether it's ancient Egypt or Sumeria is going to help you understand where a lot of these religious practices come from. As I said, the 6-pointed star you can find in ancient Babylonian temples, in ancient Sumeria, in ancient Babylon. That's the origin of what we're calling the 6-pointed star today. Now, is it a coincidence those who called themselves ancient Jews, who were so-called, and we question the level of that bondage in ancient Babylon, because they were on their own free will and accord set free, but a lot stayed because they lived a good life there. And you don't see the comprising of the Torah till after these so-called ancient Jews come back into Jerusalem and rebuild Solomon's temple. then the compiling of what we know as the Torah. Why? Because if you understand their history, you will see their creation story comes from the Atra Hasis, and it's basically your creation story in the book of Genesis. So I'm just giving you quick examples. So to me, it's good. That's my thoughts. It's good to break that mental indoctrination that we've been programmed with religion. It's even a more powerful tool to grasp out of it what you can to grow, whether it's through ritual or spiritual practice. Then I can see how it can be utilized. But for nonsensical debates and ego fests, and I'm so deep, I know this, I don't give a shit about any of that. I don't care. That's your business. I don't even entertain that nonsense anymore. Okay? That's kind of my thoughts in a quick nutshell. Again, like I said, these videos are short tutorials, so I can't go into a whole long lecture or speaking about it. That's something that can be done on a live. The lives is where I go in, as you guys know, for a long time. Could be 3-4 hours or more. But that's my thought. Okay? So it's not about, if you're asking me that to get me in a debate mind frame, in as far as the literalness of it, I'm not going to waste my time and entertain that no more. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And at the end of the day, everybody walks away still in their mind thinking, I know more than this person. I know better than that person. And what are we really accomplishing if this is not helping us grow and it's not helping make a difference or a change here in 2024? That's all. All right? So hopefully this quick tutorial helped you. I'm going to wrap it up. Again, if you need to reach out to me, khnum19@gmail.com. If you need information on booking a spiritual reading or a spiritual consultation, that's where you want to email me. You could also send an email to that same email address to sign up and register for the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference, which will take place October 19th to the 22nd in Hollywood, Florida. All right? Also, keep in mind all this content is uploaded to the Primordial Chaos podcast, which is available on Spotify and all major podcast platforms. Okay, and the direct link to the podcast, my contact email address, direct link to the Instagram and Facebook pages, the direct link to the Primordial Chaos Patreon page, which is where you want to go to sign up for classes, join Tier 3. That gives you access to all the classes and the group ritual I do every month. All of that is in the description box of this video that you are currently watching right now. All right, that's going to do it for me. As I get right to the house here, the rain subsides. All right, look at that. Nice and quiet now. You can see out the windows now, but I was in it there for a good 15-20 minutes. It was raining buckets, folks. But we need that water too, right? All right, that's going to do it for me. I will talk to you guys on the next video or next live. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. All right, infernal blessings. We'll talk soon.